right, here we go. So at first I'm going to tell you a little story about what's going on here, and then I'm going to let the mowers and trimmers take over with the audio, and you can just sit back and enjoy and see all the work that went into this project. So this is a church that I'm working on in this video, and how I got here was because one of my weekly customers that I take care of, well, they came out to pay me when I was done with the job earlier this day. And when they were talking to me, they asked me if I take care of overgrown properties, because they kind of have a little something they were wanting to inquire about. Well, it piqued my interest, and I asked them what was going on. And they told me that their old church that they used to attend and that their daughter was baptized in has been overgrown. They said it hasn't been active in years, and it's just been sitting there like abandoned building, but they did see that the yard was still being taken care of over the years until this season. It hadn't been cut at all. And I thought, oh, all right. But they asked me if I could possibly look at it and see if I would be able to do the job and how much it would cost them, just to kind of make it look better than it does. They feel sort of ashamed of what it looks like because the place holds sentimental value to them. So when I left their house, I drove straight to the church. I pull up here, park right on the side, get out, and I walk around the property. I pick up a few, weird pieces of trash and a couple things you did not want to hit with a mower. Instantly, I knew this is a job for me. I can do this, and I should do this. And I also knew I wasn't going to charge them anything. This isn't their responsibility to pay to have this done. It's something that they just wish would be done. And I'm the right man for the job, so I jumped right out and got to work. Now, when I start mowing, you're going to see me stop because a guy pulled up on the street off to the side and walked up by my truck. And I thought, oh, what's going on here? And when I drove my mower over to him and started to hear what he had to say, he said, "Who hired you to come out here and cut the property?" And I thought, oh, I'm in some sort of trouble here, right? And I said, nobody. And I told him the story. And he goes, oh, well, so you don't know who to contact about this place? I go, no. And he goes, oh, well, we've been looking to try and purchase this land or this building and everything for a few years now, but we can't get a hold of anybody involved in the old church or owns the property, records, city, county, whatever. He couldn't do anything. He said, I was thinking that when I saw you up here, that maybe you had some information. I said, no, sorry, man. And he's like, well, that all makes sense. Nobody knows anything about what's going on. And so he was disappointed that he couldn't get like a hot tip on who to talk to because he wanted to purchase this land. That's when he told me, well, stay hydrated out here. It's getting hot. Make sure you take breaks, and thanks for doing a cleanup on this. And I'm like, all right, no problem, man. I went back to work, right? And as I'm going along, I'm thinking about situations like this. I've seen it 100 times in my town where a property just goes abandoned. A lot of times people get older, sick, or they get put in a nursing home. Maybe they're still paying someone to cut their lawn, but then eventually the checks quit coming to the lawn care. Things quit getting paid. The water gets turned off. The power gets turned off, but the building still sits there. The person could be mentally not able to take care of things like that. They're in a nursing home, and the nursing home is still getting paid, but their house that's still sitting out here is just getting thrown over and fallen down and broken into, all kinds of stuff. So look around your town. You'll see a few of these cases. The cities can't even really take over the house that easily, which is a good thing. Or, we could be losing our properties to abandonment if we get sick and, debilitated where we can't do anything for, a year or two. You come back and your house is gone, right? So it's a good thing that it can't easily be taken away from you, but it is also kind of strange that some buildings can sit for 10, 15, 20 years before a city or county can legally take back control of it and straighten it up. In the meantime, all they can do is send out a crew 3 or 4 times a year to knock down the grass, and that's about all they can do. If a person is still alive, you can't take their property. If the person is dead and they don't have any heirs to leave it to, and there isn't like a will or, there's some legal stuff going on to where it's not that easy for, a property to be taken back over. So I see a lot. I sure hope that's not what's happening here, but you never know. I'm going to do my part here and go ahead and cut this yard and You'll see me go back and forth and back and forth, and I get it all done. Stick around to the end. Got some pictures before and after. Don't be scared. Here's the finished product. Look at that. I didn't get very carried away with the edging, but that wasn't the real reason I was here. The reason is because those people have a sentimental attachment to this. Something special happened in here for them. And when they go past here and they see it all grown up, to them it feels like the place is dying along with their memory of the event. And so I come by, I can clean it up as best I can. I'm not charging them. They don't even know I'm really here. We just talked about it. And then next time they go out, hopefully it puts a smile on their face, they'll see it done. And then we'll talk about it, and I will tell them I just felt like doing it. I was the right person for the job. Definitely. Look, I got it looking good. Yeah. See, that's what they'll see when they come by now. Yeah. It's a lot better. And I feel good about this. And that's the thing. I was the right person for the job. You will be the right person for some job in your lifetime, whether it's, something you just do right now, you've been thinking about, or something that just pops up in the future, an opportunity to help someone or just do a good deed. Yeah. Plus, I have some good memories in my old house that I grew up in, which is falling down. And if I go to the church that I went to as a child, it's like rubble. The bricks and stuff are still there. And it's just like in a little lot, empty lot next door that used to be the parking lot, and then bricks and rubble. So I can see where, it does kind of disappoint you. And if you got married there, baptized there, that's where you were going when you had a child and everybody celebrated something, then it can definitely be a damper on those memories, especially if you live right by it and see it all the time, just kind of crumbling. It makes you feel more mortal too, So until we talk again in the future, don't be scared. Here's your before picture with that little weed tree growing up alongside the cross. Then afterward, it's looking pretty darn clean. Yeah, but when you go to the side view, you can really tell how tall things were. And boy, what a difference that made, huh? That's a pretty lawn now. And when I came around over here, I edged the sidewalk a little bit, but I had a lot of stuff to do, so I didn't get too carried away there. I was worried about making all of this look nice and clean, and I think I did a pretty good job. I'm proud of it. Sometimes you just have to do it because you're the right person for the job, so don't be scared. Click on the card on the left if you want to see me mow a cemetery. Click on the card on the right if you want to see me help a guy out who had multiple knee surgeries. You should hear his story. The card at the bottom, well, that's me and Kevin cleaning up this little railroad track area, and we turned it into a dog park. I'll talk to you in the future.